Hello. Welcome to the final presentation of 2022 here on the People First Potential channel on Bright Talk. I'm really glad you were able to join me, whether it's live or on demand. For those who are here live, I hope that you'll post your questions. The people who come later on demand, they don't have a chance to interact and ask those questions. So you're carrying the ball. If you've got the question, somebody else probably does too. So thank you in advance for posting those questions. I'll try to take them as they come or fold them in if I see that there's a place where they naturally weave into the content. If I don't get to them during the presentation, I'll try to leave time at the end. And if that fails, I won't miss them. I'll email you later. If it's something that's very, very specific to you, I'll send you an email and answer your questions one way or another. For those who are new to this channel, a couple of things I'd want you to know about me. First of all, I have a background in HR where I worked for a Fortune 500 company as an HR director. And that was 17 years ago. People First Productivity Solutions is the company I founded when I left that company when it was sold. And I also I do a lot of work with soft skills and as an executive coach and helping people to just do what they need to do in terms of people practices to make sure that they're building organizational strength by putting people first. Our topic today, it's going to cover a lot of ground because I'm going to be talking about how you can get the most out of your one-to-one meetings with your manager. But I'm also going to talk to managers. I know some of you are in both roles. You're conducting one-to-one meetings and you're attending them with your boss. So I'll go ahead and talk about best practices for how to make the most of a one-to-one meeting, no matter which seat you're sitting in. Before that, though, just for those who have not been familiar with Bright Talk, underneath the place that you're looking, underneath the video, you're going to see a tab there called Attachments. And I encourage you to take advantage of that. I usually try to load up the bonus resources. First thing you'll see in there is a PDF of the slides I'm going to be using today. So take advantage of that. You'll also see a way to follow us on LinkedIn. You'll see links to People First Leadership Academy, where there's tons of other free learning opportunities. And some of them are affordable. Most of them are free. There's 40 plus programs over there. So I hope you'll check all of that out. Especially look at the resources in the attachments today that are related to workplace conversations. That's our signature program for supervisory skills. It teaches you how to simultaneously manage work and lead people. And this is an extract. This particular content comes in part from that very comprehensive series of workshops. So our topic is the one-to-one meeting and how to make the most of it. Let me just check in with you. Are your one-to-one meetings, if they exist at all, are they often looking something like this? The manager rushes in, harried and very, very busy and says, oh yeah, sorry I'm late. How you doing? Hey, yeah, how's the project coming along? Go ahead, give me your updates. And the employee who has been a little anticipatory, maybe even a little uptight about this meeting, says something like, well, yeah, I'm getting a little behind because I still need those reports from Blake and Meredith, and I've got everything else. I just need those reports so I can put together the final presentation. Manager jumps in solution mode and says, okay, then here's what you need to do. You go tell Meredith, you tell Blake that I'm the one asking for those reports. And then be sure and let VJ know what's up, because I promise you, if VJ gets involved, we'll have an answer by the end of the day. Now, when you start to build the presentation, get marketing involved. And it's a series of bam, bam, bam solutions, rapid fire from the manager to the employee. And there's not too much else in the meeting. In other words, it's very tactical, it's very task focused, and it's very short term. And that's too bad. That's really too bad, because there's so much more that could be happening in these one-to-one meetings. So I think the first question we really need to tackle is, what is the objective anyway? What's the objective for the one-to-one meeting? What I'm showing you on screen here, this is the typical response when I ask that question. We usually use one-to-one meetings to give little mini performance reviews. Here's how you're doing. Here's what you need to do differently. or to check in on projects and direct those next steps, like we just did in that hasty example. Or sometimes it's used to assign the next batch of work, to maybe delegate something different. But usually it's all very focused on the past, maybe the present, and the near term, what's going to happen between now and the next time we meet on a weekly or biweekly basis. The problem, well, there are a couple, but first and foremost, the problem is that when these meetings are focusing on the past, a lot of that's just wasted time. If you're reporting out on what's already been done, well, why? Whatever's already happened, that can't be changed. So I hope you're not spending a lot of time talking about what's already happened. If you're talking about the present, here again, maybe not the best forum, because what's happening in live time really ought to be talked about in live time. Maybe just being able to have a little more access and availability to your manager so you can do that. And if it's all about the near term, the deliverables, well, the opportunity to look long term and to get some career opportunities and development, all of that's missing. And I mention this because I want to interface just a little bit of interesting research that's very, very relevant to what we're talking about. What you're seeing here, this is research from Gallup. They conduct this study year after year. They've been doing it for a long time. And they do this with people in all sorts of companies, all sorts of functions. The findings, though, remain very consistent across time and across job types and sectors. What you see on screen, these are the top 4 reasons that people leave their jobs. Now, I know in your exit interviews or when people give you their resignation, their 2 weeks notice, what they usually say to you is something like, well, yeah, I found a job where I could make more money. But see, Gallup, they go a little deeper. They go and talk to people and they ask people who recently left their jobs this question. They ask, what is it that caused you to go looking for a job? And the 5th most common response is that people say, I needed to go looking for a new job because I need a job that pays more money. Answer number 5. The 4 reasons that are given more frequently are, I went looking for a new job because I wasn't getting the expectations and the guidance I needed, so I knew how to be successful. I don't know what my manager wants. Second most common, I went looking for a new job because my manager wasn't giving me feedback. There was no coaching. I didn't have an opportunity to improve in my work performance. My manager didn't provide consistent, clear expectations. My manager hasn't shown me clear ways to enhance my earning potential and career development. In other words, the top 4 reasons that people leave are all about their interaction with their manager. And for every single one of these 4 items that you see on screen, the one-to-one meeting would be the perfect place, the perfect opportunity to be discussing those expectations, to be giving that guidance, to be showing the pathway to how to be more successful, to provide not just feedback, but also coaching that's facilitated goal setting and helping people to figure out how to overcome barriers and to create their own action plans, to set those expectations, to reinforce them, and to help people to accomplish their goals. That's motivating, it's ennobling, it's liberating, and we're missing all those opportunities in one-to-one meetings. So obviously, first and foremost, the thing to do if you're conducting these one-to-one meetings is to think about what it would take to make the shift, to use that time in your routine, recurring, regular one-to-one meetings to change the conversation, to give that feedback and that encouragement to help people determine their career paths, to be able to truly coach and to set expectations and monitor them and course correct. Because all of that, we know from big bodies of research, all of that is what leads to higher levels of retention and engagement of employees. It's where you find out how to enable them, and it's where you have opportunities to ennoble them. In other words, the one-to-one meeting shifts from a short-term focus on task completion to a long-term focus on employee development. Now, so far I've been talking to managers. Managers, think about ways you can make this change. Don't worry though, if you're someone who is attending these meetings and you're not in the manager seat, I'm going to show you some places where you can assert your needs and help facilitate a shift like this. Here is the ideal. Right? If we're aiming for a change, let's get a look at what the ideal would be. This is a broad overview. It's a blueprint. It's based on my own observations. Anecdotally, the people who have made a shift like this have reported very, very positive outcomes. This is a blueprint for a one-to-one meeting that enables and ennobles people, that improves engagement and job satisfaction and retention. It's a blueprint for one-to-one meetings that will help people grow in their commitment level and in their capacity to do more and to do better. So this little infographic and the attachments, remember, they're just under the slides. There's a series of infographics like this that you can subscribe to. It's all free. And you'll be able to get some insights to make this transition that I'm describing. So what you see here, this is for a 45-minute meeting. If your meetings are 30 minutes or 1 hour, just adjust the time so that they are incrementally stacking up the same way, proportionate to each other. So let's talk about each of these 9 steps. The first one is to set a regular time, to commit to a regular recurring time. If you are my manager and I'm your direct report, you are setting up a meeting with Deb, for example, every Monday from 9 to 9:45 a.m. Now, please keep this in mind. I know you're going to be busy. I know that you'll have customers and senior managers and other urgent requests for that time. And it would be really easy for you to, apologize. Hey, Deb, sorry, but I'm going to have to XYZ instead of meet with you today. You'll be tempted to do that. But I'd like you to remember that for an employee, this might be the biggest meeting in their week, the one that feels the most important, the one they do the most preparation for. They may have some really big topics on their mind that they'd like to discuss. So be careful. If you frequently cancel these one-to-one meetings, you may inadvertently be signaling that you're not really available and committed to that employee. You're not only missing the opportunities for development and engagement and retention, you're flat out telling me that you've got better things to do. So think twice. Try instead to really make this time that you honor. And when you meet, eliminate distractions. Make this time sacrosanct. Between the two of us, this is your time that you are dedicating to me, the employee. This is time that is really, truly my time with my boss to get what I need to do a good job for you. Next, this is all still in the setup and preparation. Learn to be a coach. There are other presentations right here on this channel. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can go over to People First Leadership Academy, and we have presentations there that will help you as well. But coaching, short version here, coaching is not the same as mentoring. It's not the same as managing. It's its own unique discipline. It certainly isn't about storytelling and giving examples of what's worked for you. Coaches ask questions. They listen. They facilitate goal setting, and they hold up a mirror for self-reflection so that they can promote self-discovery and get people to commit to an action plan and determine how they're going to overcome obstacles to reach that goal. And when you can do that, when you can really coach in that way, you will be amazed at how much more buy-in you're getting from employees. They're going to own those goals, the ones they set themselves, and they're going to work hard to reach them. All right. Now, one more thing about the setup. Think of the meeting differently. This is a meeting where we're going to brainstorm together. We're going to collaborate. We're going to co-create ideas and solutions if you have any issues or problems that you're facing. And as the manager, you're going to probably do a lot less problem solving and talking than you normally do. Yes, I understand. You have more experience and you have answers. But I'd like you to think about the value, instead of giving those answers, the value of finding out how much the employee can figure out on their own. That's how you build business acumen and competence and confidence. I'd like you to listen first and understand where the employee is struggling and where they're coming from, to be careful not to insult them by giving them elementary stuff that they already thought of on their own. Have real conversations, not just check the box, get through it, move on to the next thing kinds of transactions. Now, in the meeting, I do want you to spend time giving feedback, not just hasty feedback, not off the cuff, not hyperbolic, not only the things that are on your mind because you thought of them at the last minute. But I would like you to give prepared feedback that's delivered in a way that's high quality. That little model that you see there, we'll talk about it a bit more later, but that's 3W feedback. It's a model, a very effective model for making sure that feedback can be received and that people don't have defensive responses. And this is going to be 3W feedback, not just on the tasks at hand, but on the overall growth and development of the employee, because we're looking long term. We're thinking big picture now. Okay, you're also going to do a progress check. These are action items from the previous meeting, but notice that not very much of the time, if this is a 45-minute meeting, we're spending less than 25% of the meeting on this progress check, because that ought to be done in live time anyway. Why save it up for the one-to-one meeting? That just means that you're becoming a bottleneck. Instead, let people interact with you and come to you with those situations when they're happening. When you've talked about all of the progress checks and you're now talking about the next steps, be sure that you recap the action items, set the accountabilities. I will, you will. Better yet, you're asking questions and the person who's not in the manager seat is the one who's talking about those action items and accountabilities. And find out what else is needed. In order to proceed on this, what do you need? How can I help? What resources? Who else should be involved? And last but not least, keep in mind, before you were manager and employee, you were human and human. So, especially as people are working from home and especially as the world around us is getting so much more frenetic, don't lose sight of the real human to human aspect of this opportunity, this one-to-one meeting. Why wouldn't you connect on a personal level? So that's the overview. Now I'm going to break it down and take it in pieces. We'll take the first 4 of these, the preparation stage, all together. And now I'm shifting. I want to talk more about not what the manager should do, but the person who's in the one-to-one meeting with the person they report to. How can you get this manager to prepare in these ways? How can you facilitate a shift? After all, let's say your manager is not the one attending this workshop. They have no idea that this is something they should be thinking about. How can you introduce it to them? On various slides, you're going to see a little section that looks like this, always headlined "Assert Your Needs." And that's exactly what you should do. You should assert, you should declare or request what you want or need. I think we often wait to see if we have permission, or we just sort of go along to get along. But if you know that the one-to-one meetings could be better, if you know that you could be better if those one-to-one meetings were better, then you're actually doing your boss and yourself and everybody else a favor if you assert your needs and you say what it is that you want. So you tell your boss, hey, I know you're super busy. I get it. But I'd really like us to lock this time in. I'd really like to get your full attention without distractions, I promise you I will come prepared and I will make good use of that time, and I'll be able to work more independently throughout the week because of it, and to grow in my competence and my confidence because of it. Can we try that? You would be surprised at how many managers will respond favorably. And then it will start to, because it works, it'll start to spread out across the rest of the team, maybe even the rest of the organization. And you will have been the catalyst by asserting your needs, making this awesome wholesale change across all of it. So you'll also have to sort of frame up what you want in these meetings. If you'd like them to be less task and short-term focused, and you would like to use this time, this opportunity for it to be more about you, that's not selfish. That's not a wrong thing to ask. In fact, it's refreshing. And if you really mean it, after you've asked for it, that this focus on your own development, well, you're going to now, you're going to bring ideas. You're going to show that you didn't need the old style of a one-to-one meeting because you're operating day to day and you're operating more autonomously. And you're going to be showing that because of this clarity about expectations and the feedback that you're getting and the development that you see for yourself, you will show that you're more committed. I'm not saying even that you have to think about showing that. It's not a quid pro quo. What I'm saying is you will be more committed when managers focus on employees in the ways I'm describing. The commitment is the natural outcome. It's all about employee engagement. That's defined as when an employee feels an emotional connection to their work, they apply additional discretionary effort. When an employee feels emotional connection, well, that means they stick around longer. They are less likely to leave. When they're less likely to leave and they stick around longer and they're more satisfied in the work that they do, employees have higher levels of productivity. That's that additional discretionary effort. When employees are having higher quality and higher quantity output, it leads to improved customer satisfaction, and all of it together produces reduced expenses and increased profit for organizations. What I've just described to you is the business case. If I were asking for this, it's not about me, Deb, selfishly, indulgently wanting something. It means that I am positioning the team and the company for greater success, because when I get what I need, development, and when I get what I need, engagement, emotional connection, it's cause and effect. I will apply additional discretionary effort. That's really how it works. So the one-to-one meeting, it's a great place for putting all these pieces together, and it's a great way to make your job and your manager's job easier, actually. Now, here's the next piece of this. When you ask your manager to do something different, I'd like you to also do something different. I'd like you to lead the meeting. I'd like you to lead the meeting because you and your manager agree on what's going to be in that meeting. Every time, it's always the same. You'll come in prepared to update your manager on action items from the previous meeting. You'll do the prep work. Your manager won't have to. You'll make sure that there are no loose ends. You'll make your manager's job in these one-to-one meetings easier because, let's face it, your manager has more than you to meet with one-to-one. However many direct reports your manager has, that's how much the work is multiplied if he or she is doing it on their own. But if you and your colleagues, if you all do this prep work, it lightens the load for your manager and makes your manager better able to focus on you during the meeting. You're going to lead this part too. You're going to ask for feedback. You're going to invite it as opposed to feeling like it's something you ought to duck, dodge, or deny. You're going to ask for feedback in specific areas. Hey, here's what's challenging me. Here's where I feel like I need some improvement. Here's where I'd like some help. Can you give me some feedback about what I could be doing differently? Don't be afraid of it. By leading it, you're disclosing with integrity what you are and what you are not fully able to do. And there's no shame in that at all. You are, in a way, setting up your own success by staying ahead of something that will bite you later. Okay, and then here you are, you're still asserting your needs. You are going to be intrinsically motivated because you're in charge of this. You're going to ask for what you need. I need these resources. I need this access. I need you to make this contact. You ask for it. And then always keep it in the frame of development. Okay, I'm doing these tasks. I'm learning from them. I'm growing into expanded capacity. I'd like to have a stretch assignment. I'd like to have an internal mentor. I'd like to have the opportunity to serve on that committee. You have to offer those ideas. Your manager might not think of them. Your manager could never know what you feel capable of, what you feel interested in. Your manager could never know those things as well as you do. So you assert yourself here. All right, the next part that I want to talk about is the progress check. This should be about 10 minutes long. And that progress check should be on action items from the previous meeting. Here again, you're going to lead this, but I don't want those action items or this progress check to be all about tasks and job responsibilities. Remember, that's the part you're needing to do day to day in live time. Try to shift this gradually and then completely to a conversation about the progress in your own development. What have you learned? What mistakes have you made that you can turn into learning opportunities? What did you commit to work on in the last meeting, and how are you doing? This is growth and development. This is asking your manager to inspect what they expect for you for your development. And really they should expect you to learn and grow. They should expect you to tap into some hidden potential and to continually be taking on next level responsibilities and tasks. And you ought to be expecting that of yourself too. Now, those opportunities that you might be looking for, they might not all be available right now in your company. Your manager doesn't get to push a button and get all those courses created and those resources allocated to you. So you might also have to do a little bit of digging to find them. And I'm going to shamelessly self-promote People First Leadership Academy because we have over 40 courses and most of them are free and they're good and they're intended to help people grow, to help teams become more effective and to build leadership at every level. So if you haven't already, take the course catalog that's in the attachments and check out People First Leadership Academy. Progress check on your development, and you're going to get some feedback. You're going to get some feedback related to your performance and related to your development between meetings. Whether you're meeting weekly, whether you're meeting monthly or some other interval, hopefully it's at least monthly. Whenever you meet, be sure to ask for and allow time for feedback. I'm talking about both positive feedback and constructive feedback. And I'm talking about feedback that's delivered in a very specific way so that it's quality feedback. So you don't have to try to sort out what it really meant. You don't have to wallow in despair as you lick your wounds and try to recover from poorly delivered feedback. I'm talking about quality feedback. And there is, in fact, a free quick session on this over on People First Leadership Academy. Maybe it's something you and your manager could attend together so that you can learn about how feedback can be effective. Here's the model, and I'm just going to describe this to you briefly. I want you to remember, as you hear me describing this, that you can't control how feedback is given to you. The best shot you have is to help your manager find resources to get educated. But you can control how you receive feedback. You can ask for clarity. In fact, you can even use this model to explain, to give feedback about the feedback that you've received. So here's how it works. These are 3 W's. It's a 3W feedback model. And it goes like this. The first W stands for what? When you give feedback, you describe the situation that you observed, you personally, not secondhand, and you use specifics to describe that situation. You say, for example, when you gave me that feedback a few moments ago, you used a lot of hyperbole. You said, I always and I never. And you also, in that feedback, you had a tone that was, at least to me, seeming really sharp and clipped. So you say whatever it is. You say it in a neutral tone of voice, and you say it as close to the actual observation as possible so there's not deniability, nobody's forgotten all about it. And you just put it out there. Matter of fact, there's no accusation, there's no blame or shame. It's just a recap of the situation with specifics. And then you roll right into the second W. The second W is why this matters. You're describing the impact. And if there is no impact, if it's just that you're in a bad mood or you want to retaliate for the feedback that you received, right? If there's no really good cause for giving the feedback, then don't. So if you think this through ahead of time, you'll decide if you want to give this feedback depending on whether or not the why is important. Okay, so if you're rolling right into from the first W into the second W, it sounds something like this. I'm going to repeat the first one so you can see how it flows into the second one. You start with the what, and then you go to the why. Yeah, in that feedback that you gave me a few moments ago, I noticed that you used some hyperbole. You said, I always and I never. And your tone, at least to me, seemed like it was a little sharp, a little clipped. I'm mentioning this because I really, really want to understand your feedback, and I really want to be able to respond to it in the way that you want me to. And I found myself getting defensive and having an emotional sort of a response, butterflies in my stomach, and I felt a little clenched, like a fight or flight response. I just wasn't fully able to receive your feedback because of what I was hearing. You put the impact out there. And if possible, you make links to values, links to organizational goals, links to something else that's going on in your relationship with you and the person you're giving the feedback to. And here again, you just roll. This is not a conversation. You roll from the first to the second to the third W, which is the way forward, the way you'd like to see things done differently. You could offer options, or you could just put out a statement, a declaration of what you want differently, or you could collaborate and create a plan together if that suits the purpose and if that's okay with you. In that feedback you gave me a few moments ago, you seemed really kind of sharp with me and clipped. I'm not sure I received it well because of that. And you used some hyperbole. You said always and never, which caused me to start feeling defensive. And I'm mentioning this because I don't want to feel defensive. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to be able to take your feedback and do something with it and make the changes that you'd like to see. So going forward, if you could please, give me more specifics. Instead of always and never, help me understand what you've observed. Help me to understand what you'd like to see done differently. And as much as possible, let's talk about the here and now instead of the always and never, which I just am having a hard time processing. So you flow through all three. What you're doing is you're eliminating the other person's defensiveness. You're creating some clarity. You're maintaining a neutral tone. They're a lot more likely to maintain that tone too. And you're giving them specifics in the example, situation, and in the things you'd like to see done differently going forward. This really works. And as I said, I'm giving you a few extracts here from a course called Workplace Conversations. That course goes a lot more in depth about how to receive feedback and how to give feedback. So if that's of interest, the attachments, Workplace Conversations is what you're looking for there. All right, back to these one-to-one meetings. Now, this feedback, this model, it can also be used to deliver positive feedback, and it should be because positives really matter. You won't find many people who say when the appreciation was genuine, you won't find many people who say they've ever been thanked too often. In fact, most people will say there's actually a big void. They aren't getting enough appreciation. They aren't getting much in the way of accolades and recognition. The ratio for positive to negative feedback, this is all evidence-based. It comes from a book called How Full is Your Bucket by Rath and Clifton. And it's 5 to 1. For every one piece of negative feedback, you want to have 5 positives in the bank. And they can't be make believe and they can't be lightweight. They need to be every bit as real and authentic as that negative feedback. That means you have to take time to notice and deliver positives. And I'm talking about any chair that you're in. We sometimes worry that if we praise a boss, people will say we're sucking up. If you give platitudes and ridiculous feedback, that may be true. But if you say feedback that's genuine, that reinforces something you'd like to see repeated, that's no longer the case. So here's a 3W feedback model delivered from a direct employee to a manager using the what, the why, and the way forward. It sounds something like this. I noticed in today's one-to-one meeting that we spent a lot more time talking about my career development. And I really appreciate that. I especially appreciated it when you asked me questions about my own goals and the learning opportunities that I'd be pursuing. This matters a lot to me because I feel so valued right now in this moment, and I feel kind of motivated and charged up to go out and take a look at the book you recommended and that live webinar session you recommended over on People First Leadership Academy. I'm totally going to do that. And in our one-to-ones going forward, if we could do this at least every other meeting, I feel like it would really help me to stay motivated and charged up like I am right now. Thank you. That's not a suck up. That's an acknowledgement and an appreciation of something you liked. And you're a lot more likely to see it again because you've reinforced it with a positive, affirming statement. Now, if you're not getting positive, affirming statements, I encourage you to ask for them. Not all the time. You don't want to seem needy. You don't want to seem like you're on some fishing expedition. But specifically, hey, I'm curious, in this new role or task that you've assigned, what do you see as my strengths and how you might apply them here? Or, in my job, I understand I have some improvements I need to make. I'd be also interested in knowing what you'd like me to be sure and keep doing, what you are valuing about the work that I do. Occasionally, and specifically, these will be productive for you, and it's okay to ask. In either direction, when you're giving feedback, it's not candid and it's not constructive if you aren't maintaining that neutral tone, that objectivity. If you're doing blaming, shaming, or hyperbole, like always, never. If you beat around the bush because you're trying to protect people from the truth and you're never really getting to the point. And it's not candid or constructive either if it's secondhand or if you're apologizing for it. If you're saying things like, oh, I really wish I didn't have to mention this, but my manager is making me tell you this. We've heard some things, right? That's ineffective. Don't do it. Find the real, observable, tangible specifics first and give the feedback that way. Now, we're also in these one-to-one meetings wanting to be sure that we're enabling and engaging and retaining people, giving them what they need. That's to managers. To people not in the manager chair, here's how you assert your needs. You simply say them. Here's what I need to continue on this project. Here's what I need to get to the next step. Here's what I need to continue developing in the ways I'd like to develop in this company. You're going to make the business case. Don't make this self-centered, all about you. Look around you. See how you could serve the business, how you could help the business, how you, by being developed or getting what you need, could give back in ways that matter. Put it all together so it's easier for people to say yes and give you what you're looking for. And then there's the action planning. I already mentioned this one to you. Rather than waiting for your manager to delegate here, recap. What I heard in this meeting is that you need me to XYZ. And I heard you say that you will ABC. What have we missed? That's accountability. Those are next steps. Everybody can understand and proceed in that way. Now, I mentioned that engagement and retention come from enablement, but they also come from ennoblement. Ennoblement means to make someone feel worthy or important. People, all of us, humans, we crave a sense of belonging. We need it. Again, this is not about some indulgence. It's not about some nice to have. It's not about being able to have touchy-feely kumbaya. This is real. This is a business imperative. When people feel worthy and important, when they feel a sense of belonging, when they feel engaged, that cascade, retention, productivity, customer satisfaction, higher levels of profit, lower levels of expenses, all of that, all of it flows from what I'm describing here. And that's why it's so important that these meetings not be focused on tasks and deliverables alone. It's about these meetings focusing on people and on what people are able to do and how people are able to connect to their work so that they can then, cause and effect, provide additional discretionary effort. All right, so leveling up and summing up what we're doing here, 3 to 5 topics. They're the same ones every time you meet. You agree to them with your manager, and then you become responsible for preparing to answer and update on those topics. The time is honored by both parties. The meeting time is consistent. It's periodic every week at 8:45 a.m. or whatever it might be. It's uninterrupted. There are no distractions. This time is sacrosanct. It's really important between the two of you. You avoid operational issues and reactive issues. Yes, right before the meeting, this happened, but you're not going to dedicate the meeting. That's a distraction too. You're not going to dedicate the meeting time that's supposed to be about you and your development. You're not going to let it get swept up by that momentary thing. This is going to be interactive. It's going to be led by you. The manager's going to do less of the talking. You're going to do more of the talking. That's how you have a really good one-to-one meeting. It's how you end up getting time focused on your own development. Now, please take the attachments. I think I've answered the questions that have been posted so far. I don't see any new ones. Last call for any additional questions. I've given you 2 places to go on screen. People First Potential, that's People First Leadership Academy. It's where all those free courses and opportunities for coaching and assessments and other sorts of interactions are located. The other is the main webpage. That's People First PS, stands for People First Productivity Solutions. That is the name of our company. And if you want to do something on a larger scale with your entire organization, if you want to follow our blog or get access to lots of other resources that we provide, then that's the place where you'll find those. All right, I see one more question. If the team is independent, self-sufficient, content experts, is it okay to have one-to-one meetings once a month versus biweekly? I think that is the scenario where it's potentially okay. But you know what I would do is I would make the switch first. Keep them biweekly to do some of this development work and to get people in the habit of that before you decrease the frequency. And maybe instead of decreasing the frequency, you decrease the amount of time for the meetings first and just see what happens. See if that works. All right. This is the last one for 2022, but I hope to see you again in 2023 here on Bright Talk, the People First Potential channel. We've already put our monthly workshops, presentations in the calendar there, so you can go and take a look and sign